Hello and welcome to this video. Have you been wondering how you can correct your child's repeated mistakes? Right? If you make it once, if you make it twice, it could be a mistake. But if you're making it repeatedly for the fourth time, for the fifth time, even after I tell you what the correct way is, it's no more a mistake, beta. Beta, if you do it once or twice unknowingly, it can be called as a mistake. But even after you know the right solution, even after I have pointed you the right solution, even after I've showed you the right solution, you are again and again going back to the mistake way, to what you were doing earlier. I cannot call it as a mistake. Also, it doesn't even deserve to be called as a mistake. Do you use such statements? Do you think so in your mind? Let me tell you some things. So yes, all this belief system about mistakes, is there anything such as anything that can be actually pointed out as right, as wrong? Is there anything that can be termed as a mistake? How can we approach a mistake, right? All these things, the entire belief system about mistakes has just been passed down from however you have received from your adults when you were a child. Remember, even you had committed mistakes, even you were judged, even you were pointed at, even you have heard all such statements like, if you do it once, if you do it twice, it can be called a mistake. But if you do it the fourth time, the fifth time, it doesn't even deserve to be called as a mistake. Do you remember? Do you recall such instances? So the thing is this: however we have been wired through our experiences, we do the same, right? We do the same in the new experiences that life gives us. Again, unintentionally, we did not want to be that way, we're just being that way. Let me not confuse you with that now. So coming back to repeated mistakes, again, mistakes is again a big thing to discuss. What can we do when a child makes mistakes? What can we even point out anything as a mistake, right? That's a whole different science. There is a whole different science to it. So this video, let me just focus on this concept of repeated mistakes, right? It's not just about a child making a mistake. Even if you get into an adult's perspective, it's the same. It's very common for you to hear such statements or hear such deductions saying, yes, she did it that time, I thought it was a mistake, and then she's doing it second time and third time and fourth time. Now it's no more a mistake. I think she's doing it intentionally, I think she's doing intentionally. She had some other thing in mind that she's actually doing this, right? Do you resonate with me? Just type out yes in the chat box if you resonate with this kind of deduction or this kind of thinking that goes in your mind, right? Be it with anybody out there, be it with any community helper or house help or your own family member or your child or your in your career place, in your workplace, be it with anybody. It's a very similar kind of pattern that is running in each one's mind, right? Again, not anybody's fault, not anybody's fault. Now let us get into the depth of repeated mistakes, right? Usually what happens is, when somebody makes a mistake, be it you or be it a child, when a person makes a mistake, that person doesn't know that whatever he has done, an action A that he has done, the person doesn't know that this action A is a mistake at that point of time, at that instance of time. At a future instance, at another instant of time, that person is at a different level of awareness, is at a different level of consciousness. So the same person, the same situation, the same action that he has done, when he kind of recalls the kind of reaction that he has done or the kind of action that he has done from another level of awareness, from another level of consciousness, he labels that as mistake. Oh, I should not have done that. I think that was a very bad decision from my side. Or I think there would be some other kind of action that I could have done, but I've not done. Why did that happen? Because when you did that action A, the action A that you've done it up to your best level, with the level of awareness that you had at that point of time. That was the best that you could do. Yes, that was the best that you could do, and life is okay with it. Life was okay with it. The same thing for a child. When a child does something, it was the best that the child could do from that level of awareness, right? From that mindset, from the available resources, and from that level of awareness, whatever the child did was the best that the child could do. Now coming back to this example, so now you've moved on to a next level of awareness, right? From when you're looking from that next level of awareness, you find this action A as a mistake. But at that point of time, you didn't know it was a mistake. If you had known that was a mistake, you wouldn't have done it, right? If you're actually mindfully doing it, you wouldn't have done it. Yes, it happens because you didn't know that was a mistake. Yes, all good until now. Now from the next level of awareness, when you are intuitively processing, right? How did you know? Let me come back. How did you know that it was a mistake? Maybe there were some consequences that happened of that action, right? Which you had thought about, and then you went back to this experience that you have had, and then you processed what were the options which you could take, and what was the action that you had taken. And that is when you have labeled that action, the action A that you are taken, as a mistake, right? So from this second level of, from this enhanced level of awareness, when you have labeled the action A as a mistake, right, it required your intuitive ability to take in the feedback. What was the feedback? The feedback was the consequences of the action that you had done, of the action A, right? You had an ability, or you had an intuitive ability to look at the consequences, to look at the feedback, and then analyze, assess, and come to a conclusion that maybe the action A was not the best at that point of time, but it was the best that you could do. Now from this level, you are labeling it as mistake. If you had, again, if a human being, right, mistakes are very common. If a human being is given the time, the space, and the freedom to just listen to me carefully, to process the consequences, to process the feedback, to assess the actions, the situation, the experience, and then to actually understand what were the options and what was the option taken, or what was the action taken, and was it the best one? I mean, could something else be the best one? Right? If any human being is given the time, space, and freedom to process this entire thing, the change that has happened, whatever has happened from at this level of awareness, what is happening at this level of awareness, and the entire change that's happening when the human being is moved from this level of awareness to this level of awareness, right? If a person is given the time, space, and freedom to process this entire journey, that person will become mindful of his level of awareness again. His awareness is actually raised now, his consciousness is raised now. So the feedback that he gets from his past actions, right, from his earlier actions, is what is acting as a guiding force for him to take the next best action, right? So when he is doing a mistake, yes, he has done a mistake, right? But then when he is given the time, space, and freedom to process the feedback, to analyze what has happened, then he can also take it forward and think about what is the next course of action, what is the next step of action. Now let me tell you what usually happens in this journey, right? Again, as with any other species, if any other species also makes a mistake, it's the same thing that happens, but they are given the time, space, and freedom. But with humans, it's rarely given, right? It's a luxury for any human. For a child, it's actually a luxury for a child to be given the time, space, and freedom to act or to assess, to do all this and stay in the journey. So what usually happens, and what has actually happened with you when you have done such mistakes in your childhood was, once you've, this action A is now your past, right? And then there is another person who's looking from another perspective, from another level of awareness, from another level of consciousness, and that person is labeling action A as a mistake. That is when you are judged, right? You are blamed, you are put in a guilt zone, right? And then the spotlight is on you. right? The spotlight is on you. You are becoming conscious of not what you have done, but of people looking at you, right? Of people looking at you. In a similar way, when your child has done something, you think it's not good, you think it's a mistake, and you are pointing it out, you are judging, you are putting the child in a blame zone, in a guilt zone, you are shaming, you are labeling, then the child, right, all of this is creating again a false programming is happening in the child's subconscious. So if the human being was left on its own, that human had an intuitive ability to process the feedback and decide the next course of action. Remember the one that we learnt in the earlier part of this video. Now this human being is no more left on its own, on his or her own, right? He is being pointed at, he is being judged, he is being labeled, he is being shamed, he is being zoned in, he's put in the guilt zone, right? Lot of things are actually happening to this human being. Lot of emotions are being bombarded on this human being. At this point of time, right? So at this point of time, the human being, this child, it's no more about doing the mistake repeatedly. So the mistake that he has done is no more about doing, right? The focus is no more about doing, but the focus is about being, how you are being, right? In this next course of action, how you are being as a person, what is your level of awareness, what is your level of consciousness? Now, just tell me, if a human being is given the time, space and freedom to be on its own and again use his intuitive ability to process the feedback, to process the consequences and decide his next course of action, that is when the human is being guided by his own intuition. When the same child is being bombarded with guilt, fear, threat, blame, labels, shames, right? Labels, shames, it's no more about, the child is not being the true human. The child is not being the true self. It's about just getting past, unnoticed. It's about getting past. It's about denying the mistake. It's about, I don't know who did it. Though the child knows he did it, it's not about doing. If you just focus what's going on, it's no more about doing. It's about being. How you are being at this level of awareness, how you are being at the next level of awareness, how you are being when you are deciding about your next course of action, right? So there's a whole bunch of thinking that the child needs to process, and it will happen. Every human has a natural learning ability from his or her own experiences, until or unless the child is being bombarded with these negative labels, shames, blames, guilt, is being zoned in, right? Is put on a spotlight, asking, why did you do that? Right? You do it once, twice, thrice, fourth time, it's no more a mistake. But if you get back to the principle, if you get back to the foundation, the child who is doing the same action A, he is repeating the same action A at the fourth time, at the fifth time, at the sixth time, that means he is no more being at his true level of awareness. He just wants to get past, right? He just wants to get past that experience. He wants to avoid it. He wants to go into a denial mode. He wants to ignore it. He wants to come out of it, right? All these negative things will come into place. That has happened because of the various judgmental views that he has got, that he was bombarded with from the adults around, right? It's the same thing that has happened to you. It's the same thing that's happening to your child, right? So when there is a mistake that is made, it is not about who did, what happened, why did, and all of that at that point of time, but from a different level of awareness, it is about who you were, how are you being at this experience, how are you being at this experience, and are you mindful of your being, right? Children are naturally mindful until and unless again the parent is actually pulling them away from their intuition, right? So this was about how you can look at this perspective of a child committing repeated mistakes. It is no more about doing the mistakes. It is no more about the doing the mistake, but it is about being who the person is, being the true person. When the child is doing whatever the child is doing, he doesn't know it was a mistake. when you are looking, or when he himself is looking from a different level of awareness, it can be labeled as a mistake, but it is no more about doing the mistake at the fourth time or fifth time, but it is about being, how mindful you are at that moment. Are you being the real person, the true person that you are, right? Now how do you teach this complicated thing to a child, right? Again, human beings as natural learners from their own experiences. Your child is already doing this. If you just notice, your child is already doing this. Just continue to be more and more with the child, share the feelings, share the emotions, just join in this process of assessing, analyzing the feedback, the consequences, and you will learn more from your child. Rather than teaching your child, you will learn more from your child. Cheers, bye bye.